Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to throw this out there to you, and you got to respond. You got to react on the fly.
Okay.
See how you do here.
Good as usual. Hang on, I need to take a sip of my coffee. Okay.
Man, you're killing me. Okay. Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Welcome back to the Scott Townsend Show. And today I have with me repeat guest, executive producer of the Scott Townsend Show, Ben Townsend. Ben, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Hey, thanks for joining today. I know it's
hmm
short notice, but first off, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
what I normally have for breakfast, one egg scrambled, and some it's instant oatmeal, but it's more of an organic type with extra protein in it.
Hmm.
And with some extra oat bran thrown in there, some walnuts and some blueberries.
No,
And some psyllium husk.
no syrup, maple syrup, and a little pancake or anything.
Nope.
Hmm. I had one egg this morning too. I usually have four, but I only had one left, so I had to
Yep.
suffer with
Yep.
one egg.
And so I, with when I put a bunch of other stuff in there, and it's not super sweet to start with, but I add a little bit of monk fruit sweetener to it. I don't know if you've
Monk
ever
fruit,
monk fruit. Yeah, it's like it's a natural sweetener, but it's 0 calorie. And I don't think it works real well as like a primary sweetener, but I think it works great as a sweetener just to take it up a little bit for something that already has, sugar in it.
right?
Um, so I like that. And yeah, we're still in our little apartment here. Our home is they're out there weathering the building right now. So they got all the decking on the roof. They've got all the tar paper down. They got the sides on everything. So after today, maybe by noon tomorrow, it'll be completely weathered in. So we're
Hmm.
making good progress on our house, and this has been a great little apartment. But man,
Hmm.
we're ready to move into our own home.
Yeah, well, not bad. That's
Yeah.
exciting. It's good news.
Yep.
Can't wait to come down and stay in my bedroom down there. However, you've got that set up.
We can go on the back deck and we can have coffee,
Hmm.
our coffee mugs,
Yeah,
and
the
watch the
Wolf
deer walk
Clan.
by.
Watch the
Mhm.
deer walk by. Yeah. Well, the reason for this episode, I saw this Simon Sinek video on LinkedIn yesterday. It kind of hit me between the eyes just a little bit, and wanted to get your take on it.
hmm
He was talking about somebody who had gone through a hard time, and it's just a very short video. And now I can't find it, but there's another video that goes along the same lines with him, and I'll get to that in just a second. But um, he was talking about somebody going through a hard time, and so he told them, well, first off, he was talking about, a lot of people will say, well, if there's anything I can do, let me know, blah blah blah. And it's kind of a easy, cheesy, lazy way out of committing to helping a friend or family member by putting the burden on them to come up with something that you can do for them. So he
Yeah,
said,
but points for being there.
well,
I
yeah,
mean, if you do that minimally, I guess you're on the playing field.
yeah,
And so you may not be an impact player, but you're on the field.
you're on the map at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good point. So he said what he told his friend was, I'm going to call you every day at 3 o'clock for a month or 2 months or 3 months, depending on the severity of the case and, where they are in their headspace and all that stuff. And so he would call them every day at 3, just checking it. And then he said, and don't feel like you have to answer the call. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to call. I'm going to be there. If you don't feel like picking it up, if you don't feel like talking, that's totally cool. I get it. But if you do want to pick it up, I'm going to be there at 3 o'clock. And if there's something you want to talk about or say, uh, there you go. So I'll be there
Yep.
for you for a short little phone call.
Yep.
And I thought that was really, I've never heard anybody say or do something like that. How cheap, how easy that is. How it's not even inexpensive. It's no cost except for a little bit of time.
It's intentional.
And it's intentional, purposeful. And so he said this friend didn't answer for the first week. It's totally okay. He or she, whatever they were going through, just didn't feel like talking. And then pretty soon they started picking up the phone ever so often. And then pretty soon it's like every day. And that's totally cool. At least if you put yourself in the place of the person who's receiving the phone call, just getting the call is someone who's consistent and someone who follows through and does what they say they're going to do. That in itself would mean a lot to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it all, kind of gets back to, when you're going, when you have a friend or somebody, whoever, that that's going through some sort of hard thing. I think empathy goes a long way, toward putting you where you probably need to be of the most service. Um, you know, it's like, with Janet, and her cancer. Um, just to know that people are thinking about you and reach out. I think what he did there is a fine thing. Say I'm going to call you every day. For some people, it may be a little much. I don't know. It depends on the person. But if you give them permission not to answer the phone, I think that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
um, and you persist anyway, and you're not going to take offense, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't have a whiff of offense in any of your communications, if
Right.
you're going to say, and you really mean it, and presumably, you would mean that, so I think that's good. I think, we kind of like teamed up, when Janet was going through her difficulty with cancer. So, I I was able to, write on CaringBridge because,
What's
man,
CaringBridge?
it's just a site for people. I don't know if it's just cancer, but there's a lot of people who have cancer, and it just provides them an easy way to communicate what's going on with their cancer. And if you're going through it, I think it's really hard to try to write, you know. So if you have somebody that can write for you, I think that's a big deal. And having somebody that can write for you or kind of intercede for you like that, kind of be a personal administrative assistant, I think that's a big deal because it kind of takes the pressure off of them to communicate, and let everybody know what's going on. Because,
Because everybody wants to know what's going on.
yeah, and some of these things like this, if somebody with a serious illness, what I learned about it, is that it can be a super isolating experience.
Why is that?
Because Well, because you're going through all kinds of treatments, and there's a lot of those that make you immunocompromised. So you can't successfully fight off infection, and you're trying like crazy to get through chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is trying to kill you. That's what chemotherapy is doing. It's trying to kill you. And the healthy cells hopefully regenerate quicker than the cancer cells that are being killed, in the process. But it's not. Um, it's an equal opportunity uh, killer, and it'll kill the host too. So it brings everything down, your whole system down. So you can't get out. And this goes on for months and months, and that can and it wrecks your white blood cells, red blood cells. That can go on for a year, year and a half. So, when I say isolating, that's what I mean. You can't go to church. You have to really be choosy about whether or not you know, go along to the grocery store or go out to a restaurant. I mean, pretty isolating. So, and your social interaction, just flatlines at that point. And so, for us to be able to write, and I wrote for Janet, but we had other people in our family like Tasha, who uh, who volunteered to communicate for us. I'm comfortable writing and communicating, and so I took that on, and it's less for Janet to explain to somebody else about what to write, what to communicate.
Mm.
But man, just, getting that out there so that people knew what was going on. And then it was so meaningful. Like we had so many people that were following along. Like, I don't know what the number was, but it was over 100 people, I think, following along. And, when you would write, when I would write something about, the latest thing was happening, I try to put week updates out there weekly, just getting things back, like a thumbs up, you know, or somebody say, yeah, thanks for the note. We're praying for you. I mean, just those little things, I'm
Hmm.
telling you, from being in the trenches, that's meaningful,
Hmm.
and as, somebody who, people who are, um, you know, committed to their faith, we're Christians. And so to, know that somebody's out there and they're praying for you meant everything.
Hmm.
And I'm not kidding. It meant everything. Because, you go to bed at night and you're thinking, wow, so I can go to sleep. I can go to bed here. I can lay down and rest. And like the likelihood that there's somebody out there who's actually thinking about us and lifting us up, it's a big deal. So I think those, you know, I think having people that are willing to respond like that or reach out, just, a text, and just be, purposeful about it. Don't try to write a book, when you send a text, just something quick and easy to consume, and not putting any burden on the recipient, is huge.
Hmm. Sometimes those of us on this side think that just sending a little emoji or a little thumbs up or whatever isn't enough. It's kind of, what's that? Yeah, it kind of poo poo you kind of dismiss the gesture, the easy click on the thumb or the heart or whatever. So what
Hmm.
you're saying is it really does mean something if when you get
Well,
something
to us, it did.
like,
You remember that movie, You've Got Mail?
mm-hmm.
Way back there. I think that was Tom Hanks and
Yeah, Meg Ryan or
Meg
something.
Ryan. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But, just in there, when she would hear this bing,
yeah.
that a mail come in, how excited she got. Like, it's kind of like that. But, for us, those kind of things were really meaningful. And then some people would write more extensively, write a paragraph back or something, and, give some sort of encouragement. And they're really good at it too. I mean, the last thing you want to do, for somebody in that kind of situation is give advice, because, you know,
Talk
um,
about that for a minute. Why is that so bad? Because that sounds like the natural thing you want to do is give them some advice, especially if I've been through it before.
yeah, and I think that's mostly true, that it is valuable, but I think you have to earn their permission to provide advice. Otherwise, it can just be unwelcome for
Mm.
whatever reason. That they feel terrible, and to have somebody say like, I know what you're going through. What you need to do is, put some vitamin C in some hot water and dump some whiskey in there, and then put some lemon in there and drink it, and you'll be fine, or whatever. You know, it's not realistic, and it really kind of, in a way, people aren't trying to be, but it's kind of arrogant. It's not really understanding the situation or thinking that they got a quick cure for something. And it's kind of like, why didn't you figure this out? I mean, that's kind of insulting, and people aren't intending to be insulting. That's not what they
Right.
intend. And they're trying to be helpful,
Hmm.
right? But in that price, it's gets real sticky when you have,
And I think
people.
that's why people back away from this kind of stuff because it does get real sticky, and you don't want to do any of this. So you wind up like me, for example, just not saying anything, not doing anything because it's fraught with landmines, and you don't want to upset or tip over the apple cart or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's why people sometimes will just. That's the other thing. You say isolation because of medical condition, but there's isolation also from a societal standpoint because people don't know how to communicate with you. They don't know what to say.
Or you're
And
horribly embarrassed because you're going through some sort of nasty divorce or something. I mean, I haven't had that experience, but some people do. And
mhm,
there's other things as well, where people, you know, it's embarrassing to them. Their life isn't Facebook put together like everybody else's,
mm,
and they that's embarrassing to them. And so they don't really want to, talk about it or communicate about it. So, again, it's empathy. It's really kind of like, if you're kind of oriented towards, or if you can put that yourself there for a little while, empathy is all about doing your best to understand where the other person is coming from and just being receptive to what you can do to help. But I think you kind of got to earn that permission for somebody to say, yeah, you've been through, something similar to what I've been through. What did you do in this? Now you have an invitation. And if you have something
Mm.
that you can say, then at that point, you share it very carefully and again, thoughtfully and with, you know, your empathy mindset on. But not all two divorces are the same. Not all heart attacks are the same. You know, not all issues with children are the same. So even though you may have had, a similar thing, yeah, I also have, experience with whatever it is, a difficult child or a divorce, and even though you may kind of have already earned a similar merit badge, it doesn't mean that therefore you have the right, just to tell people like how to fix everything because that's not understanding them. That's you trying to provide advice. And, I don't know, it's kind of difficult to articulate, but
Well, it's just like a guy. That's what guys do, women to women. And I don't know, but I'm just speaking from a guy standpoint. That's immediately what we default to is, oh, well, here, let me tell you what you need to do, man. I went through the same thing. Well, number one, it's not the same thing. It's a type in a shadow, but it's not the same thing. And so you might give some advice and so you just want to start kicking in that let's fix this. Let's fix this right now. Come on, bro, let's go, uh, and that's where listening comes in, and that's where people, uh, I would say, most people are not good at listening. And so when someone says, "Man, I got this problem," whatever. Let's say they finally pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what's going on?" "Hey, like I said, I was just calling to see what's going on." And so then they start talking, and then your wheels start going, and you're starting to put things together. So here's what we can do to, here's what you should do, blah blah blah. The best thing you do is just keep your mouth shut and
yeah,
just let them talk and just
yeah,
listen
yeah.
and
But
not.
but ac- but active listening is good too. I mean, you don't want to give them like a blank surface to speak into, and they get no verbal cues or anything back.
Oh no no no,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, right. You want them to know that you are listening and that you are receiving what you're picking up what they're laying down. But
yeah,
I just know from experience, I wind up trying to help fix their problem, and I stop listening and I start prescribing, and
yeah.
that's the last thing they want to hear. Really, they just want to get it off their chest.
Yeah, prescribing is an interesting word because that's what I was thinking about, avoid being prescriptive. Oh man. So, yeah. But everybody needs to eat. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with depending on the situation, like sometimes if somebody's incapacitated in some way, they broke their leg or whatever, everybody's got to eat. It's difficult to fix dinner when you've got a broken leg or you have some other thing where you're going through some sort of intense thing. It's like when people you have lose a loved one, you take them food. It's a way of showing care and concern and actual service, you know?
Practical.
Yeah, I think offering to bring a meal or join somebody out for coffee. There's lots of ladies that did that with Janet. If it worked out for her, meet her for coffee or bring her something. Just bring stuff by. We're going to come and bring some stuff by. We're not going to stay long. We're just going to drop it off. That's also a good call.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know what's going on in the house.
Right.
Where you have people who have been torn up by surgery and all kinds of stuff. So, quick hits I think are really good. And, if you show up and they're like, no, 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 can you sit down for a second? Again,
There's
you
your
know,
invitation.
there's your invitation, your permission. And so, if you're trying to show empathy, I think that's an indicator of success. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head, if you get the invitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to be a good listener, what does it mean to be a good listener?
Well, I mean, like I said, kind of like active listening, like
I guess I wasn't listening earlier, so we can.
yeah, you're too focused on what you want to say. just verbal cues as you're and nonverbal cues, as you're listening. And if there's something you don't quite understand, checking for understanding as somebody, is explaining something to you to make sure because you want to make sure that you're understanding them right, and you want to make sure that they know that they're being understood. So those kind of, active listening skills, which doesn't include advice, you know.
And also maybe kind of feeding back what you just heard so they know that you did receive it correctly.
Yeah, repeating it back. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Why is
So,
reaching out for help so stigmatized? Why do people not like to reach out for help?
because nobody wants to feel needy. And it may be part of a pride issue. And I'm not immune to that. Yesterday I got out of my sling for my rotator cuff surgery. And you don't want to be a bother and an inconvenience. And it's like even here in the house, try putting your socks on sometime with one hand.
Yeah.
It can be done, but
Yeah.
I like to wear like the smart wool socks. And after you wash them one time, they kind of like they don't shrink, but actually shrink, but they become kind of stiff and like harder to put them on.
Tighter.
It's like tighter. Yeah, man, try that with one hand sometime. And so a lot of times, Janet was helping me put my socks on, and that's every day, man.
Yeah.
It's every
Yeah.
day. And so you feel like you're a bother and you don't want to be a bother. And even though, she would get irritated with me because I would try to put my socks on without asking for her help because she wanted to help,
Hmm.
still, you kind of feel like, in a little way, that you're a bother. So I think that's a lot of it, you know. It's hard to ask for help. I mean,
And then if you don't ask for help, you hit on something else too. You deny the people around you the service that they want to provide, and could they actually get really upset with you because you didn't ask them to help and they're ready to help and you didn't employ them. And we all know this is just a temporary little setback, so just let me help you.
yeah,
You don't need to be Superman all the time. and
right.
and then you try to be Superman, and then people get irritated and disappointed and whatnot, and that's just, so I guess that's got to be okay too. But that's natural for them to get that way because they want to try to help, and we just need to let people help us. We need to be able to ask for help, and we need to be able to allow people around us to help us because they get something out of it too.
Right. No, I think that's right. And they want to be helpful, and they're kind of answering, in their own life, you know, a friend or a spouse or whatever, kind of like the call they have to service. And if they're trying to engage with you and you're going through something, they feel a call to service. So it's hard. I mean, I believe me, I couldn't put on a shirt by myself. When I had my shoulder surgery, I
Mm,
couldn't put my socks on. I couldn't button my jeans, you know? So, you know, I walk around, for 6 weeks wearing sweatpants almost every single day because it's something that I could pull up, you know?
mm,
And but when we go to like go out for whatever reason, it's not that I never wore my jeans, but I had to have her button my jeans and zip my pants up and put my belt on. It's something else I couldn't do.
mm,
So just it's really basic stuff, man,
mhm.
and you just kind of have to accept help. And so we've been helping each other with stuff for a long time. So
Yeah,
not a big deal, but
kind of
you
have
know,
to have a good sense of humor about it too.
hmm yeah, 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 find ways to make it fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Simon Sinek was talking about the 8-minute call. This was another video. I guess some research shows that someone going through a depression, grief, whatever, troubled times, that an 8-minute phone call, whether it's daily, weekly, every other week, or whatever, 8 minutes seems to be uh, the ideal time. It's not too long. It's not too short. Gives you enough time to get some info, give some info, and then hang up because you're busy, they're busy, but you've been able to accomplish your mission to help them,
Yeah.
and and they've been able to let you help them by,
Mhm.
you know, speaking, talking, and you listening. So 8 minutes, I thought that was an interesting number.
Yeah, I do. I think that it is interesting. And, for the love of all that's holy, if somebody has ever told you that you're a talker, you just got to understand what you tend to do. And if that's you, I think you gotta set a timer,
Mm-hmm.
and just say, hey, I'm gonna limit myself to 5 minutes here because I don't want to take up your whole day. And sometimes I start talking and we'll be 30 minutes later and I'm still going and I haven't taken a breath and you haven't said a word. That's me, so I'm gonna hold this to 5 minutes and then I'm going unless you want me to hang out, but I just
Yeah.
this is really all about you, blah blah blah. So set a timer if you're one of those people, man. Set a timer because some people can absolutely wear you out
Oh
with
yeah.
going on and on and on, and you're about to pass out. So
Yeah. You lay the phone down, go to the bathroom, get a drink, come back. They're still going. Don't even know you left.
yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So anything, I thought this would be good to do a video like this, a podcast like this to help people who we all go through stuff, job, medical, family, friends, whatever. Um, and not a lot of people know how to deal with it. We don't do a lot of teaching on it. We don't, there's not a lot of talk about it because it's not a fun conversation, but it can be a good conversation. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily fun, although I think this conversation has been kind of fun. But I think that it's important because there are people out there hurting, and if we can help just one other listener get it and know how to approach someone going through a tough time, I guess mission accomplished.
Yeah, and I think again, as a Christian, sometimes people wonder why they have to go through tough things. If God loves me, why do I have to go through tough things? I think it's a super complicated answer, complex answer, but I think one of those things is, it kind of uniquely qualifies you to talk to somebody else who is going through something very similar,
Mm-hmm.
and so it kind of empowers us for service. And you can't jump in with, giving advice and all kinds of stuff like that. Again, you have to wait for the invitation, but if you've gone through it before, if somebody's been through a divorce, even though they're all different, you know, it kind of empowers you for service, to be of maximum assistance to somebody who's going through the same thing, or there's all kinds of trouble that people have out there. And if you've gone through that, some sort of health thing, whether it's a heart attack or cancer or whatever it is, it does kind of empower you in a different way to be of service. And that's also great too, because if you make yourself available, if you've already earned that merit badge, and you make yourself available, and then somebody invites you in, then you can really, really help them out. And there are some people like that, when we are going through all of our stuff. You remember Mike Perryman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and he's been through, his own cancer struggle, and he's amazing. And the way he handled it, his attitude and his encouragement was amazing. So, there are those people out there, and we all have different experiences, and sometimes, we get the call. We've had, that similar experience, and we can help people out. But you still have to go, you still have to run all the same traps as everybody else, and just kind of be there and empathize and listen and wait for that invitation.
So yeah, when they're in the mud and when this person, whatever it is in the muck, is in the yuck, the mud, and you're reaching down trying to help them out, they might not want to move for a little bit. It might be better. What you're saying is it might be better for you to get down in the mud with them, and that's not a lot of fun. The other thing too is if you've been through this before, then your pants are probably stained with the same mud, because you went before them. So when they're looking
Mhm.
at you, they see you've actually been through this crap. You know, your pants are stained with this mud. It's kind of it's like a scar. You know, it tells a story. So just to get down in the, and so when you get in the mud with them, then they're kind of okay with it, I guess, and they know what you're doing, and you don't have to say anything. And eventually, at some point, you know, you look at them and say, "Are you ready to get up and climb this ladder now?" And at some point, they're probably going to say, "Okay, yeah, I think I'm ready now." But what I tend to do is immediately go in, grab their hands, say, "Come on, let's go," you know.
Yeah, you basically make all the mistakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's true.
but you know what? I mean, too, you might feel like this is the way I feel like. I feel like I need to say something that's going to be like not necessarily profound, but I want to say something like intelligent to help them, to encourage them in some way. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to put your
Mhm.
that kind of pressure on yourself. Really, it's way more effective just to be empathetic. Just to practice, your empathy skills. And I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I've seen some people who are great at it, and some people who have been great at it, have been involved in our lives. And but sometimes you do get, some pretty profound stuff. I mentioned Mike, you know, uh, I remember one time he said, and I'm not going to quote him exactly right here, but he said something to the effect of, "You never know how strong you can be until there's no other way." You never know how strong you can be until there's no other way. And I think that's 100% true. Uh, and things like that, people who have kind of been in the same trenches and things, they can offer that kind of thing, kind of real thoughtful kind of input. It's not really advice. It's just kind of input into the process. It's encouragement, you know, giving your
Mhm.
courage, encouraging others. Imparting my courage to you. I encourage you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, I anything else along these lines?
No, man, I think I'm tapped out. You've hit my limit of insight that I can provide here, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you and Jan went through quite a bit there, and there was a lot of people supporting you guys and helping you
Hmm.
guys. And oh, one thing that you mentioned that just between you and me, but we haven't mentioned it here on the podcast is, well, you did mention about eating. And like a good Townsend, we all want to mention about eating. But you mentioned something about people doing DoorDash gift certificates and stuff,
Yeah.
which I had never thought of, And so talk about that just a little bit before we head out here.
Yeah. So, well, in the past 2 weeks, we've had two opportunities to, um, you know, Hunter is in Houston. He was really sick with the flu. We're really hoping that Emily, his wife, would not get the flu. But it's frustrating for us to be here, 3.5 hours away, and we can't be around somebody with the flu. Now it's not smart for us. Probably in the end okay, but we just really don't want to press it. But you feel useless, and you feel like so. But man, there's all different kind of ways you can help. And if the only thing you can do is call and or send text or let them know you're praying, that's awesome. There's there's um there's what's it place called? Yeah, Spoonful of Comfort. There's a it's an online thing, Spoonful of Comfort, and somebody at distance, or even in your main town, but it works great for somebody at distance. You can buy them. They have soup and kind of like care packages, and it's really good stuff. It's not cheap. It's pretty good, and you can send it to them. And then Nolan, had something, the very next week, like 5 or 6 days later, he got the flu in a different
Oh man.
location. Again, we're at distance. So on that one, we did DoorDash, and we sent him a DoorDash. Sorry we can't be there to bring something to you. Wish we could. So even though you're not there, it doesn't mean there's nothing that you can do. You can do that. You can have
Practical.
flowers sent. You don't have to spend a dime though. And if you want to rock somebody's world, you can do a real old world thing that nobody does anymore, and actually write a handwritten note, you know,
Hmm.
and it's put it in the mailbox. Put the little flag
Yeah,
up
that's
out
really
there,
cool. With a
and
little
have
what?
little flag on the mailbox. You put
Oh
that
yeah,
up, and somebody will come and take that mail and deliver it to whoever you address it
miraculously.
to. Yeah,
Hmm.
but emails are great. Text messages are great. Uh, a letter or a card in the mail is an absolutely it's a lost art. And you want to rock somebody's world, man, do that because it
Hmm.
shows a lot of forethought. Even if you don't have to say anything, real great or anything,
Yeah,
just like,
don't have to be Ernest Hemingway. You just.
right, 3 sentences,
Hmm.
2 sentences, whatever you want, um, that's almost free.
Yeah.
A text message is free. That's for
Hmm.
most people. An email is free. There's a phone call. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. So if you're thinking that, well, I just, they're there or whatever kind of excuse you
Nothing I
want to
can
make for
do.
yourself,
Hmm.
there's tons of ways to do it.
Yeah.
So you just gotta purpose to do so. Again,
Yeah.
purposeful.
Get a little piece of paper, write down a couple sentences, get a little package, put a little pest dispenser in there, and mail it out, and you're good to go.
Exactly. So I'll be looking for your letter to show up in my mailbox. It shouldn't see it's Thursday. It should get here next Monday.
Man. All right. Well, that's a good convo. If you're listening to this, share it with your friends, family. This is something that a lot of people need to hear. It's important, and it it's important because it helps others and just helps us, all of us, get through the day a little bit better. All right. Well,
Agreed.
go enjoy wrapping your house up.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Well, for Ben Townsend, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for listening to the Scott Townsend Show. Have a great day. Everything's going to be all right. And we'll talk to you later. That's it.
Boom, boom. Ba-dun, dun, 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 wah, 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 wah.